Okay, so I don't have the wherewithal right now to write my ideas about the kind of limiting archetypes in modern mythological movies and Marvel movies and maybe media in general. So I figured I would just do like a little talk video based on our most recent conversation. So the point was that what I was noticing and I've done this a bunch of times, looking at Marvel movies, and let's say Black Panther is a great example, and Jean Grey, Phoenix, Dark Phoenix, etc., are on one hand intentionally supportive of positive female and minority role models made by very well meaning comic writers like Stan Lee. And yet, when you watch a movie like Black Panther and say, finally, there's like a black superhero movie, or Jean Grey, like, here's a powerful woman. When you peer beyond the surface on them, they're very problematic. Black Panther, of course, is a strong black character, but of course he's got to be far away, distant, kind of Pan-African character with the accent. And of course the nation has to be absolutely rich and um, have these medals and all these things and this shield around them and all this stuff. Um, so it's got to be kind of fantastically amazing and far away. So kind of like pandering to black people in that way too. But obviously, like, these royal African black people are like amazing and have superpowers, but the American ones have to be called Killmonger and have to die at the end of the movie and have to be a bad guy because he's from the streets of America. So it's kind of like saying African black's good, American black's bad. And my original insight was, when I was a kid, probably a teenager, and The Lion King had like all these black and Hispanic actors like Whoopi Goldberg and etc. who were playing the hyenas, the bad guys. And the hyenas were animals, and so it was like inadvertent in that they used all those people, like, and how they had accents and they talk like this and sinister. So it was um, it was unintentional, and yet it kind of highlights what is wrong with our culture, that they're unintended racism behind things. And so Black Panther, that stuff's pretty obvious, pretty straightforward, and Jean Grey is a good example. So whatever, she's got all this power, maybe the most powerful mutant on the planet. But the power doesn't derive from inside of her, it derives from outside of her, this Phoenix force. So her power isn't hers, like most male characters, their power is theirs. Professor X is very powerful. He controls his power. His derives from him, whereas hers derives from outside of her. It's evil. It overpowers her. She can't handle it. And thus, she's a damsel in distress, despite being powerful. Even as a powerful woman, she's a damsel in distress. And then, thus, Professor Xavier, the kindly paternal gentleman, has to control her, partition her, and keep her power down because it will destroy her. So she's supposed to be a strong woman character. And of course, she's beautiful and she's nice and good, and she's always unsure and can't quite do the things she wants to do, even though she's the strongest one. So, and then she's a tragic character too. Like, she can't just be a strong woman character. Like, way to go, you saved the day. And then, so when they are a strong woman that just saves the day, then they're Wonder Woman. And they can kind of do no wrong. So that's like the pandering to the women thing. Like, yep, there's nothing bad can happen to you, which is Captain Marvel, obviously portrayed by an actress that just kind of didn't give it a lot of joy. And maybe the character was really limited for her too, and that's kind of gets back to my point. But she just is like indestructible. Nothing can hurt her. She doesn't really grow. She doesn't really change. So she's just like de facto powerful. And so it's just like girl power. Like, yeah, you guys are great. We love you. Here, we made this character for you. And the same thing with Black Panther. Like, it's just over the top perfect. But again, it's over there in Africa. Over here, it's Killmonger. Jean Grey is super powerful, but she's a damsel. And then, so getting back to Jean Grey a little bit, if we're not, um, so she's a damsel, and then but her power is poison, and then Black Widow. So they have to be named by their poison. So women's power is poison, their power to poison. Or if she's a femme fatale, she can't just be beautiful and great and powerful like Marilyn Monroe or something like that. But it's got to be poison. She's a femme fatale. So either she's a damsel in distress that you males can save, or she's a femme fatale that is a threat to your maleness, your power. Um, so it's like, even in being empowered, they are ugly and wrong and evil and harmful and a threat. But then their power is like, again, with Jean Grey, a poison to them too. And then, somebody like Black Widow, it's got to be named by, she must be named by her poisonous power, the power to kill, as opposed to the power to save or something like that. It can't just be, they can't just be potent. It has to be poison potent, or Scarlet Witch. And so Scarlet Witch, what is she going to put a spell on you? She can't just be a powerful, strong woman like Thor is just the god of thunder. Like, yeah, I mean, it's dangerous, but So anyway, I'm sure I could find some better connections, like Iron Man has the suit, or Captain America. There's nothing poison about his power. It's just defending the good old U.S. of A. So the woman, what these well-intended media creations point out is that even when we're trying to support women and minorities and other people, that we end up displaying these gross myths, these disgusting, ugly, limiting perceptions of these minority groups, because racism, sexism, etc. is the water these fish are swimming in, and they don't even know it. So, like, Stan Lee didn't mean to be a racist or sexist when he put out this stuff. In fact, it was his very anti-racist and very anti-sexist intent that empowered these characters to begin with. I'm going to create a strong woman character. I'm going to create a black character. I'm going to create, any other minority. Or that X-Men can kind of be like a stand-in for LGBTQ. So, like, the intention, the heart of all this is good. So I'm not knocking Marvel and saying, oh, you guys are disgusting. And then you can go into Dark Phoenix again and just say, like, it's Dark Phoenix. It comes from outside of her. And so just all the themes are problematic as can be. And so what do we do about this? What do we say about this? And can we use this to create some kind of a podcast where we talk about how baked in this is, even in our mythology, to the point where, of course, it's going to be baked into people's minds. And thusly, when someone like Trump comes around and starts manipulating through the media, through propaganda, and through scapegoating and other divisive techniques, that it's no wonder that people are so easily manipulated through this when they don't even recognize the ugliness that still exists in our culture, and that our stereotypes are based on these archetypes that are limiting in and of themselves. So our archetypes themselves are sexist: the damsel in distress, the femme fatale. And so when these men and other people, I'm sure there's some women that wrote some stuff, write about women and black people and other minorities, they're using the only archetypes they know, and those archetypes are limited, are pejorative, are ugly, are weak, and reinforce ugly and broken models of what it means to be a woman, or what it means to be black, what it means to be different, and that usually a white male has to come and be the savior. And so if we're going to break the stranglehold that a would-be authoritarian has on us, we must also notice how these ideas are fed to us, however unintentionally, through media and through mythology, and how we must reimagine. And that doesn't mean to reimagine women as all-powerful and having no stakes and having no ability to lose, like Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel. Those are really kind of terrible. I mean, Wonder Woman's a start, at least. You know, she's strong, she's powerful, but again, she's from this island really far away, this fantasy place, and that fantasy place also doesn't allow men in. So it's just like, you know, it's got to have this bad thing where men aren't allowed and stuff. So problematic, maybe less problematic, but again, more along that pandering line. So how do we notify everyone that this is going on so they can see how, even in our well-intended mythology and media and art, we're often perpetuating these negative stereotypes and or pandering, or doing both at the same time within the same media creation. And then we wonder why we are so easy to manipulate via political propagandizing that causes harm, that usurps all of our power, but especially usurps the power of women, like abortion and etc., via something like a Trump administration. And it creates this kind of neo-confederacy that is racist, sexist, and homophobic at its core, and keeps perpetuating for another generation all these negative ideas that are reinvigorated, absolutely reinvigorated, to the detriment of those minority groups, and literally making them not full citizens. Like women right now in states, you can not get an abortion if your father raped you when you were 15. Like, that's where we are now. So is this one way where we could get through to people and say, hey guys, it's even in our stories. We have to dig so deep and learn so much. Hopefully this is something you can listen to on triple speed so I don't put you to sleep.